Good morning to you. Mark's out with HurricaneTrack.com. It is Monday, Memorial Day, 2022, May the 30th. Good to see you here. It's time for the Hurricane Outlook and discussion. I am in a hotel room over in Hays, Kansas. A little bit of severe weather work today and tomorrow, maybe Wednesday. We'll see about that. But we also have to watch what's happening with Agatha, about to make landfall in Mexico. And then what happens? Well, we could see our first Gulf storm, possibly. We could see a big rainmaker and no-name storm, a few different possibilities in between. We'll take a look at some of that coming up. A lot of uncertainty. I think that should be a sort of a sub-headline in the background of all of this, that what happens later after landfall in Mexico with Agatha, there is a lot of uncertainty. One thing that we are certain of, just so you know, if that energy comes across and manages to reform and become a named storm in the Gulf of Mexico somewhere, it would be called Alex. They change names once they cross basins. They get the name on the list in the basin that they change to. You understand? So it wouldn't be Agatha anymore. It would be Atlantic Basin name Alex, which is our first named storm for the Atlantic side. Hopefully not too confusing. So here's what we have in the Atlantic. Nothing too much in the 2-day tropical outlook area, nothing highlighted. But the 5-day graphical tropical weather outlook, they just use the background. There's no satellite picture, but it shows medium chance now of this developing, and that's significant. The odds are starting to increase here up to 40%, so a 4 in 10 shot that this could develop further as it crosses over here, and then some of that remnant energy ends up over here in the southern Gulf, Bay of Campeche, Northwest Caribbean. A very large circulation pattern is going to unfold down there. Again, it's very, very complicated in terms of what all is going to be happening. Here's the satellite animation, courtesy of Tropical Tidbits, as we start. I'm starting my day. I got up just a little while ago after flying from Wilmington to Denver and then driving from Denver to Hays and getting some work done in between on equipment. Yes, I needed to sleep in. Nevertheless, there's Agatha down there, a small hurricane. It is a hurricane. Maximum winds were 110 miles per hour last time I checked. Small in coverage, but pretty feisty. And this is going to make landfall in Mexico. I'll show you on our interactive map in just a minute. We'll be able to really zoom in and see where this is going to have some impacts. And then the mountains down there, some of those mountains in excess of 10,000 feet. That's getting on up there. And remember, the 850 millibar level, and this is important, is 5,000 feet, roughly. So 10,000 feet is above that. So the bottom part of this circulation, again, sort of the heart of this, of Agatha, will get ripped and dragged, and the circulation is going to separate. It's kind of a disgusting scenario. If you think about it weather-wise, it's like roadkill. And that's what's going to happen. It's going to run into that rugged terrain down there and get shredded, the bottom part getting pulled back as the mid and upper levels keep going. Where that mid and upper level energy tracks and how intact it is, how vigorous it is, and then how it interacts with everything that's going on over on the east side of the overall gyre, big old circulation area down there, that's what a gyre is, will help to determine what happens next. It's not cut and dry and easy to figure all of this out. But this is what the wide shot looks like. We can zoom in and take a look at Agatha here. Pretty feisty little core there, the central dense overcast, some deep convection. Only a small area of hurricane force winds, and so that's good. So the impacts are going to be limited at the coast to only 10, 20, maybe 30 miles of coastline, honestly. But there could be a significant storm surge, hurricane conditions right at the coast. But then just as soon as it makes landfall, these mountains are waiting for it just inland and then all across the rest of southern Mexico, honestly. So this will start to die very quick death in terms of where it is now. And we can see this represented pretty well on the tracking map here. This is on the HurricaneTrack Insider site, moving northeast at 8 miles per hour, so it's not moving particularly fast. And the winds there were 110 as of the 10 a.m. Central Time advisory, which is pretty new here, or 11 o'clock Eastern Time. So we can zoom in and see where this is going to be tracking. Looks like it'll come in east, well to the east of Puerto Escondido, And then if we zoom in really tight down here, this track coming in at sort of this oblique angle to the coast, the surge would be generally to the right of that track where you have onshore flow, but only in a very, very small area. And then again, as soon as you get inland here, look at the relief on our background map. The terrain rises very quickly, and the shaded relief all through here, this National Geographic background map. Look at all these rugged peaks in here. But not only will this sort of get torn apart here, it's important to note, look at some of these little blue areas here. These are your streams, creeks, rivers, the Rio Copalita, something like that. There's just plenty of river systems, some of them that actually make their way back down to the Pacific. So all of that rain is going to fall into these areas, going down these steep hillsides, the possibility of mudslides, flash flooding. There's little villages all through here. That is going to be a problem. It really is. Luckily, it's a small system, so it's not going to impact a huge area with a lot of rain, but nevertheless, some impacts down there for our friends in Mexico that need to be taken into consideration today and into tonight. Unfortunately, a lot of that really heavy rain through here is going to happen in the overnight hours tonight. And then where does it go? Well, again, the low-level circulation itself, the trackable low-level center, will dissipate more than likely over Mexico. And then what happens after that? Well, we just have to put a big old question mark over here. I don't know. Nobody knows for sure. That's where we're going to have to just pay attention. So a few people that are doing just that, paying attention, our good friend Ben Knoll, a wonderful representation here, the display on a map that looks like a globe. You take the weather data, you can map it on different ways to visualize it. I love this visualization. And so this is the total column water vapor particular animation that he's showing, and I'm assuming, it doesn't say from which model, but I'm assuming that this is from the Euro. The European from the 0Z run last night. That would be my assumption. And you can see overall this large plume, this purplish color, is all of your deep moisture content coming across, trying to consolidate, maybe doing something of more consolidation near Florida. And so there could be a lot of heavy rain at the very least for Florida. And he mentions that, that potentially for Florida this weekend, sorry beachgoers, it's something we have to consider. Remember, the effects from tropical systems are not just if they are a hurricane that makes a big news headline. Powerful hurricane heading for Florida. That is an attractive thumbnail on YouTube, and it garners a whole bunch of views. Trust me, the social science behind this, it's true. If, that were to be the case. Remember when Irma was coming in 2017. Very serious about this here. That makes for really attractive, attention-grabbing headlines, thumbnails, whatever. But the fact is, would the same thing, catastrophic flooding possible, or Category 5 flooding, if we labeled it as such, the Storm Prediction Center does with their, and the Weather Prediction Center, with their low to high risk. They have high risks all the way up to the level 5. They don't call them categories, but I'm just saying, don't underestimate only rain. It's only going to be a rainmaker. Why is everybody hyping this up? Nobody's hyping it. Well, I'm not. I'm telling you, you don't need a hurricane to have very, very big problems, and especially in these high-density population areas of South Florida, Florida as a whole, but particularly South Florida, Southwest Florida, and any onshore flow that comes in there too can create problems with storm surge at the coast. But we'll watch this. We'll be on top of it, and we'll see how it evolves. So this is the GFS from the 6Z run today. Show you that real quick. 850 millibars. Again, that's that 5,000 foot level of the atmosphere, and there is the signature of Agatha, if it'll show up. Come on, Mark. We'll use purple. There's the signature, or blue. There's the signature of Agatha down at the 850 millibar level, nice and compact. Watch what happens to it. Move this out into time, and it just disappears there into those mountains, because the mountains are taller than the low-level vorticity. So it gets ripped up and there it goes. And you can also see at this level of the atmosphere, there's a nice ridge, very toasty in the southeast, lots of high pressure down here, keeping the remnants of Agatha shoved over into Mexico for now. A general flow of wind down here that's kind of curved, this monsoon trough gyre type setup. So a lot of energy and moisture available. So it going out to 48 hours, no signs really of Agatha coming back, just deep southeasterly flow coming across Central America, hopefully aiming some of that up into Texas and even Mexico where you can use the rain, and that'll also help to fuel severe weather in the lower 48. We'll get to that later in the update here. So 54 hours, 60, 72. Now the GFS is just trying to figure out in its math and its physics and it's all of its equations, do we get another little vortex there where it concentrates? Maybe there's another one here, multiple centers of circulation. Look at the wind barbs. Just follow these around. Just a giant curved area of wind flow down here, further complicating things. It really is. This is a difficult situation. All that wind just kind of circulating through here, energy, heat, moisture, heavy rain for Central America, and a difficult forecast if you want to figure out, is a named storm or whatever going to come out of this. Then we have some other energy over here to the north and east of the Bahamas that some of the modeling is trying to concentrate into a more solidified storm system. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. I mean, I hate to say it, but this is not easy. 96 hours out, that is interesting. Maybe this becomes Alex, right? Maybe. If this even happens, that's more than 4 days out. And then there's this. This is trying to consolidate, again, plus 96 hours and beyond out. So, we just have to wait. We don't really know. Look at all of that energy stretched out over thousands of miles there. Tell me that's not a difficult situation. Later in the hurricane season, I smile only because I know it's going to get easier, even though at the same time it's going to get harder because we're going to have more activity. But when we have tropical waves, these pockets of energy, it's a lot easier to figure out what's going to happen with them because they are already concentrated. They are seedlings that are out there. This is like a huge grapevine or whatever you want to call it, and it's difficult to figure out what is going to ripen and fall off of that vine. Good analogy, I think. It's just going to be tough. So that's 108 hours. Let's just stop at day 5. Very complicated, nothing coming together that you can really bank on for a named system. If that's your goal, I want to know if it's going to be named. We don't know yet. But inclement weather possible for Florida, Cuba, maybe the Caymans. That's a stretch there. We'll see. I think that's a really good bet that some type of unsettled weather pattern with heavy rains and breezy conditions, certainly difficult boating conditions, right? That is almost a certainty from this whole mess. Looking at the Euro from Tropical Tidbits. So this is a visualization, and again, I'm assuming it's the Euro that Ben Knoll did, and this is over on Tropical Tidbits, and it's the same level of the atmosphere as this, 850 millibars. So let's look at what the Euro is showing. This goes out to 90 hours. Now this is a little bit more interesting. Watch what happens. It starts to take that energy. It's still pretty broad down here, but it is starting to hint at its potential of focusing it more right there. And this particular run of the 6Z only goes out to 90 hours. We could go and peek at the 0Z real quick because it does go further out into time. So the 0Z, just to show you, just to compare, you continue it on, and it's just a large, I don't know. So that's way out into time. We really want to stop at about 120 hours. That's, enough, and that's when the Hurricane Center's forecasts stop. They go out to 5 days on the outlooks, on the actual forecast. There's just not much help here to go beyond 5 days because your scatter of possibilities starts to get really tremendous. And just look at even day 5, that huge bullseye of energy sitting down there in the southern Gulf of Mexico. How do we make sense of that? I would think of it, if I'm in Florida, a large area of rain at the very least seems pretty likely to head my way towards the weekend. And as Ben Knoll said, sorry beachgoers, Floridians as a whole, it could get rather nasty down there, rain-wise, and maybe more. We'll stay on top of that, all right? Water temperatures quite warm enough. You got the loop current sitting in here, and that's an area where the water is moving, and so it's constantly refreshing with more warm water. We're talking 82 degrees or higher, so plenty of energy available for whatever starts to develop down across this region, and then eventually possibly moving its way towards the Florida Peninsula, maybe more north, maybe more south. Don't know yet, but there's a lot of available energy. We do know that. In fact, all of the Gulf of Mexico, with one little exception to the north of the Yucatan, due to upwelling, everything else is above normal, and quite a bit so. This, my friends, we'll talk about this another time. Yikes. That is very, very concerning for later in the season. The main development region, significantly warmer than average, as is the Northeast Atlantic up here off the Iberian Peninsula. This correlates very, very well with an extremely active hurricane season. The science tells us that. We can go back and look and see what active hurricane seasons have the fingerprints that resemble what we're seeing here. It works. It really does. So we have plenty more coming as we even look at this in this busy week ahead. It's just going to get busier as we go forward. And then, of course, we have the La Nina sitting out here, only adding to the overall prospects that it's going to be a very, very busy year. All right, severe weather today. Again, I'm over here in Hays, Kansas. A lot of chasers going to be up here. It's Memorial Day. You folks, please be careful. We've already had 4 people lose their lives after chasing storms. There was another accident from a young man the other day. He posted it on Twitter. He survived. He's going to be okay. Hydroplaned. I like the fact that he was very straightforward about it. He owned it. It was his fault. Going too fast in rainy conditions. You got to be careful. You know, you got to watch the weather, the gorilla hail, the tornadoes. You got to watch each other. Hundreds and hundreds of chasers are going to be out there. Many of them provide a tremendous service in spotting. The rest of them are out there because it's absolutely incredible to witness. No doubt about it. And there's nothing wrong with that. You just have to be careful. And, you know, I think you should show respect, especially when lives are at risk here. Don't get too excited about it. And failing to remember, too, that these do impact people, their livelihoods, and even lives could be lost. So we have to keep all of that into perspective. But that's the moderate for today. The enhanced extends down into northeast Kansas. And this is where I will be with my colleague Marcel Legabo from Brazil in the United States, studying high-impact weather events, specifically hurricanes, like I do. So he's come out to assist. And that's the overall look. The tornado threat highest in the red area. And then 10% where we're going to be. That's, you know, got a 1 in 10 shot. That's not bad. So we're going to work hard, set up some cameras. I'll show you more about that in a minute. And then the wind threat, a lot of straight line wind, downburst, you name it. And then the hail threat, some pretty large hail. And we're going to try to film that using some high frame rate GoPro action. It's just fascinating. I like telling the story. It helps keep us practicing things that we could use in hurricane season. And, you know, a little bit of awareness, keeping people focused on what's happening. Then tomorrow, the threat will shift more to the south. Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, up through just southwest of Lake Michigan there. The tornado threat right there. And that's where we're going to be tomorrow. Wind, hail, also pretty significant overall. It's still severe weather season. And remember, without a hurricane robbing all of the moisture feed coming up out of that warm Gulf is plentiful. So the low-level energy supply from the warm, moist, unstable air is definitely there. Finally, by day 3 on Wednesday, slight risk Oklahoma, Arkansas, Texas, and up here, yes, around New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania. We have lake effect snows there during the winter and severe weather when it turns towards summertime. So pay attention to that. And then I also suspect we will eventually see an increase of severe weather potential. This is not related to what's coming out after Agatha, but we will probably see an elevated risk eventually here for Florida. We'll focus on that when the time comes. So to get close to wrapping things up, my game plan for today, again, we are in Hays right now. This is I-70. We're going to make our way over to this region, and we're going to deploy I can't bring everything out here. We have close to 20 live cams. I would love to. That'd be amazing. One day we'll get there, but I want to set up a couple of cameras, probably southwest to northeast, just kind of watching. And let me just say something. The goal is not to see a tornado. We're not tornado chasing. We are testing equipment, working on stuff on the back end. We got our Discord, our Patreon support. It's just a good practice realm, using the severe weather as a backdrop. We have these GoPros that we have set up, again, some of them to do very fast frame rates, 240 frames per second. If you get hail that big and get a close shot of that falling, we might learn something from it. And there's just an interesting story out here. The rain has been more plentiful lately, so the ground moisture is going up, so the storms get a little bit stronger. There's more to it than just, you're trying to hunt down some tornadoes. If I was doing that, I'd be up in the moderate area, and quite risky for driving and other stuff, as I talked about. So that's going to be our focus. Then, as we see the supercells develop, let's just pretend that one develops down here southeast of Salina, and it starts to move to the northeast between Topeka and Manhattan. Marcel and I would get on these road networks, see that thing coming on radar scope, it gift wraps it for you. It really does, the technology today. Get in front of it, and then over about a mile, set up a couple of live cams and then several GoPros with pressure sensors inside these cases. Get out of the way, let the supercell and possible tornado, we'll see, go over our little fence that we set up, literally own the barbed wire fence system that's already out there, and we capture something, potentially guerrilla hail, maybe a tornado. We see it coming and going because the cameras can face two different directions. I think that's unique and different, a different approach, and we're playing the southern part of the storm system. We won't be up there in the massive chaser convergence that's going to happen farther to the north, all right? And then tomorrow we will shift our attention right down to this area over here approximately and do it all again. And we have a couple of other very unique ideas that I'm going to show you later if we can pull them off. Trust me, if it works, you're going to be like, wow. I wish somebody else had thought of that earlier, or why didn't someone else think of that earlier? You'll see. Always trying to figure out something different. Get a little light on me. It's a little harsh. So there you go. We're done. Starting Wednesday, I'm going to do a morning briefing. It's going to be called What's Up in the Tropics. I'm going to post that on a lot of different social media outlets. It'll go on Spotify, so you'll be able to listen to it as a podcast. It should be up every morning before 10 a.m. That's the goal. And it's going to be my who, what, when, where, why of what I'm looking for in the tropics, and then setting the stage later in the day for the hurricane outlook and discussion. So follow Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, whatever is your favorite. We are even on TikTok now. And then, of course, crowdfunding through Patreon. We have gained over 12 new supporters in the last week or so. Fantastic. Great to have you guys. We're getting ready to do a lot this year. Love to have you on board. And you can aim your QR code reader right there. It'll take you right to Patreon. Get the app. Download it, Patreon, and search HurricaneTrack. That's us. We'd love to have you part of what we're doing. And you get access to our Discord, our podcast series that's called Stories from the Hurricane Highway, an exclusive audio podcast of the history of all of this stuff. All of the camera systems, our insider tracking map, you name it. You support it, and you help to develop it. That's what we do through Patreon. And I'm not trying to sell you something. I'm trying to get you part of this amazing community that we're developing. All right? All right, let's get this online so you can check it out, and I can get to work here with Marcel in Kansas. By the way, we will be streaming live publicly on YouTube in just a few hours. I'm Mark Sudduth for HurricaneTrack. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you from out here in Kansas in just a few hours.